We have Mr. H.P. Ranina joining us right now to talk more on that. Very good morning to you, Mr. Ranina, and crucial development coming in from Supreme Court on the electoral bond case front.
Yes. So this is something which the Supreme Court is taking very seriously. Of course, there's a difficulty which SBI is facing, practical difficulty, but the Supreme Court is not prepared to accept that. And therefore, they have now given 12th of March, which is just tomorrow, to give the details. But this means that they will have to see, SBI will have to comply with the order of the Supreme Court. Otherwise, it may amount to contempt. For the time being, they have not initiated contempt proceedings. But if they don't comply with this order of 12th March, then obviously some action will be taken by the Supreme Court tomorrow.
Mr. Ranina, like you mentioned, yes, the Supreme Court is taking this particular development of the case very seriously. We are also joined by Tushad Cooper, who is a senior advocate as well. And thank you so much, Tushad, for joining us. And yes, crucial development, Mr. H.P. Ranina also was talking about it. The fact that that SBI wanted an extension to June 30th, that extension plea has been dismissed, and they are supposed to actually give the details by tomorrow itself.
Yeah, absolutely. According to me, this is a logical sequitur to the order which had already been passed by the Supreme Court, because for the Supreme Court to have directed otherwise would have made a mockery of their own judgment, which in fact clearly stipulated that the citizen has a right to information, and he has a right to information in order to make a proper informed choice prior to the elections. So had they acceded to SBI's request for an extension of time, it would have effected being in effect, nugatory of the Supreme Court's own judgment. So I think the Supreme Court has done what it ought to have done. And now it is for the SBI to comply. Obviously, SBI was under some constraint in not affording this information earlier. I guess they will now have to provide the information.
Tushad, I just wanted to understand from you that the reasons which SBI has cited so far is, the inability and the physical constraint to do it so fast. In 24 hours, how will that change? And also, if indeed SBI is unable to do it, in terms of it will become a contempt of court. In that sense, could there be penalties? What happens if the details are not furnished in time?
Okay, two responses to that. The first is that does it really require more than 24 hours to furnish this information? And from what I've gathered from seeing experts on television speak, it really does not require more than 24 hours to furnish this information if the will is there. So it's not something which is a practical impossibility. It is definitely possible. However, in the event that the so-called experts who are saying that it is possible to give it within 24 hours are wrong, and if SBI can afford or adduce cogent reasons why it could not comply with it within 24 hours, it is possible that contempt action may not be taken, because contempt is willful disregard of the orders of the court. Now, personally, I don't think that it requires this much time for SBI to have furnished. It appears that the delay by SBI in saying that it requires further time was deliberate. And that is obviously why the Supreme Court would be skeptical of the submission by SBI that, now we need further time till the end of June. If SBI really felt that this information required a voluminous amount of time for whatever logistical reasons, it could have approached the court early. The fact that it waited till the last minute is indicative of something beyond and behind that request. So I don't really think that the SBI needs that time, but that is my educated guess. If technically there is some problem, which I don't believe there is, then perhaps SBI may escape a contempt charge.
Mr. Ranina, before we wrap out, just a quick last word from you. Do you think it's convenient and easy actually to produce all this data in 24 hours?
No, I agree with Mr. Cooper that in this age of computerization and digitization, all the data would be available on their computers, because the banks are totally computerized today. So to provide the information, so my advice to SBI would be provide the information, whatever is there on your computers, on their data. And if there is some other difficulty, they can always ask for a week or so in order to provide greater details. But whatever they have today, they must furnish it tomorrow. And they must show their bona fides to the Supreme Court that they have acted in a manner which is in conformity with the Supreme Court's order. And therefore, no contempt proceedings should be taken against them.
Ranina as well as Mr. Cooper, thank you so much for joining us on ET Now to actually share your take coming in on that crucial development coming in on the electoral bond case where the Supreme Court has dismissed SBI's extension plea. That was Mr. Tushad Cooper as well as Mr. HP Ranina talking about that development and what it means.